Hey guys, this is Mike the Detroit Borg with a look at the LG Lucid for Verizon Wireless. This is one of their 4G LTE smartphones, retails for $79.99 on a 2-year contract. So this is sort of a mid-range smartphone for Verizon. It's not a freebie, but it's not a $199 smartphone like the Droid Razr Max or the iPhone 4S. So a mid-range phone is actually pretty full-featured in this case. So we get a 1.2 dual-core processor, 1.2 gigahertz dual-core processor, 1 gig of internal RAM, 8 gigs of internal storage, and a micro SD card slot so we can upgrade storage up to 32 gigs. On the back we have a 5 megapixel autofocusing shooter with 1080p video recording and an LED flash. On the front we have a VGA front-facing camera for teleconferencing. So this is a review unit, and we're going to take a look to see what the packaging would contain. I have to cover the number that they put on the front. So in here we have our USB charging cable, so this is micro USB. Inside we have our literature, which is unopened, and we're not going to open it. So here we have what would have contained the micro SD card. So let's pop that out here, and we'll show you how to get access to that in just a minute. And we also have a wall adapter, so this is the USB charger, plugs into a standard US socket. Here we have a USB connector, and of course you can also charge this on a computer. So let's go ahead and take a look at the smartphone itself. Now the first thing you notice about the device on the back is this sort of translucent red pattern which fades to black at the edges. So it kind of has that touch of red sort of thing that Samsung had on its television. So it's kind of a neat idea. On the back we have a 5 megapixel autofocusing shooter along with that LED flash. Up top we have our headphone jack with a noise cancellation microphone. On the bottom we have our speaker, which is pretty loud. We also have a thumb piece here so you can pop off the back cover, which I'll do in just a minute. On the side we have our power, our sleep wake button, so we can wake up the device like so. On the other side we have a faux button, which is I guess meant to simulate what's on the other side for symmetry, so it's just aesthetics. Down here we have our volume control, so volume up and down. We also have our connector for connecting the micro USB cable for charging or adding data. Now talking about that back panel, again you can just pop it off as so. And there is our 1700 milliamp battery. Up here is our micro SIM card, and over here is our micro SD card slot. So here you can add up to 32 gigs of additional storage. The plastic cover itself is fairly rigid, and of course once you snap it onto the phone, it feels like it's part of the phone. It doesn't creak or squeak or anything like that. And this is a review unit, so it's kind of been through its paces and it still feels great. Now on the front you'll find your VGA sub 1 megapixel camera along with our sensors, proximity sensors, ambient light sensors, as well as our very tiny earpiece. It is small, but it doesn't seem to affect audio quality. It's pretty good. On the bottom we'll find our capacitive backlit Android buttons, including our home, back, search, and menu button. Now on the front we have a 4-inch LCD IPS display with a resolution of 480 by 800, which gives us a pixel density of 233. Certainly we won't be chasing a Retina display with this one, but it does a pretty good job. It's very bright, very vivid, works great outdoors, it has pretty good off-axis viewing, so I definitely think the display works for this phone. Now taking a look at the LG Optimus skin over Android 2.3.6, you can see it starts with a lock screen, so you can swipe up to unlock the device, but you have a few other features here. So if you lock it again, and you see we have 4 apps here that we can launch. We have phone, messaging, voicemail, and the camera app. So if you swipe down into the area below, you can see it will launch the camera app. So you can do that with every app here. So let's go back to the phone, drag that, launches the phone. So that's a pretty nice feature. It gives you quick access to the major functions of this device on the lock screen. So let's get started and take a look at the rest of the device. So here we have 5 home screens here, and this is the default configuration. So this is what it will ship with when you activate your device for the first time. So on the first home screen we have our Play Store, Maps, Gallery, which is our photo gallery, and guided tours, which will tell you about the features of this phone. In the dock we have our phone, contacts, messaging, and apps. If you swipe to the main home screen, or the one in the center, we have a widget for weather, voicemail, email, the camera app, and the browser. We also have a phone dialer. This is a phone dialer widget on the 4th screen, and on the 5th screen you have room to grow. So if you want to change any of this, all you have to do is tap and hold your finger, and you have some additional options. So here you can add widgets, you can add shortcuts. Shortcuts are additional apps. You can add a folder, which is great because Android 2.3.6 doesn't have foldering. So this will allow you to add a folder so you can organize your apps. We also have wallpapers. Now the Lucid actually has something kind of neat called charging wallpapers. So this will actually show you the charging status of your device in sort of a neat wallpaper. So when you plug in your device, you'll get a nice little animation. So instead of having just a battery icon, you have something like fireflies in a jar. So it's kind of a neat effect. Now on the top we have our notifications in the upper left corner, so you can see our notification badges, and we also have our indicators on the right. And if you want to access all of this, all you have to do is swipe down. You can see we have our notifications in the lower tray. We have our Wi-Fi connection status here. We can also control our media from this widget here. And up here we have our quick toggles for operating or muting things such as sound. You can turn Bluetooth on or off. You can set to airplane mode. You can kill data. And you can swipe to get to more settings here. So you can lock the rotation, change the brightness, or jump right to settings. So here you can change your brightness to auto, low, medium, or maximum. Now taking a look at the apps they've included, you can see that the LG Optimus skin actually organizes them into these nice drawers. So they're all labeled, so you can see communications, Verizon Wireless, media, news and search, tools, applications, and downloads. And just tap them to open them up. You can do that for all of them. So taking a look at communication, you can see the standard array of communications, including the ones that are on the home screen: voice dialer, voicemail, Google Talk, the phone app, Google+. We also have Verizon Wireless apps, including Amazon Kindle, mobile hotspots, which allows you to use this as a mobile hotspot for your other Wi-Fi devices, so you can take advantage of that 4G LTE network. We have the Verizon Navigator, which is a subscription-based navigation service from Verizon. Under media, we have things like Google Play Music. We have a video player for playing back the video that you load on this device. So this can play DivX files, for example. We have a video producer for editing video. This is kind of like the iMovie app. We have YouTube, a video player, Netflix. In news and search, we have a weather app, browser, finance, Google search, news, voice search, which is actually part of Google's voice search, which is integrated into the search app. We have tools such as an alarm clock app. We have a note app, maps, latitude, navigation. Again, a free navigation service from Google. We also have our settings shortcut, so we can add that to the home screen if you want. Under applications, we have Play Books, and under downloads, you can see the one app I've downloaded so far, which is the Play Store. Now LG has also made some modifications to the home button. So if you tap the home button, no matter where you are, it will take you to the home screen, which is standard behavior. But if you tap and hold it, it will take you to the recently used app. So here you can launch them, or you can go to your app manager and kill any apps that you don't want running. You can also take a look at what you've downloaded, your storage, and that sort of thing. Now the menu button here is contextual, so it depends on where you are and what app you're running. So on the home screen, it gives me access to notifications, settings, my wallpaper, themes, search, and add, which is where I can add additional apps or widgets. So if I go to theme, which is kind of interesting here, you can cycle between different themes, which will also change the audio of your notifications and that sort of thing. But this is also a good way of getting to your settings. So here you can take a look at all your settings. Now, one of the interesting features LG has added is gestures, which are a series of fixed gestures that work with the accelerometer. You can basically toggle them on and off. So for example, if you want to mute the audio, all you have to do is flip it over. Snooze, same story. Pause, the same story. Previous or next track, you just tap the left or right side of the phone. So let's test that out. I'm just going to go to the gallery app. And you can see I have some photos here that I took with the phone. And all I have to do is tap left or right. And also on the home screen is a Google search widget, which will search the device or search the web. You can also use voice. Now you can also access search by tapping the search key down here. It will give you the same screen. So let's go ahead and test this out. Android. So it does a Google search for Android. But of course you can do other things like voice actions. So we can do listen to Coldplay. So it finds my library from my Google Music, and we can play any of these songs. Now you can do other more interesting things like wake me up at 8 a.m. tomorrow. And we can set an alarm. Now taking a look at the camera app, again we have a 5 megapixel camera on the back with autofocusing, so if you tap on the subject you can see it autofocuses and it adapts the exposure. You can also turn on the video camera just by sliding this toggle here. Well, taking a look at the left side, you can see we have our controls here. So you can swap between the front-facing and back-facing camera with that control here. We have a zoom button, so you can zoom in with this slider, which is basically digital zoom. We also control our exposure levels here. You can use the slider here. We also control the flash. You can set it to auto, off, or on. And we have additional settings here. So we can change our focus, autofocusing, face tracking, image size. So again, we have a 5 megapixel sensor, but you can downgrade that a bit. We have scene mode here. So you can do portrait, landscape, sport, so it adapts to those conditions. We can change our ISO, so we can set our ISO to auto, or we can set it to a very low ISO. White balance, color effect, so we have some effects there, such as sepia. We have a timer. Shot mode, so this gives us a normal, continuous, or panorama. Shutter sound, which is kind of funny, so you can change the shutter noise, so let's take a listen. This is standard. And that one gave me a good laugh when I first heard it. So let's stick with the standard one. Auto review. So this replays anything you take, and tag location. So you can add GPS location, and you can modify your storage if you have an SD card slot installed. Now taking a look at the video mode, you have similar controls, so you can record with either the back or front facing camera. You can also zoom, which again is digital zoom. And what you don't have here is tap to focus. So you can tap anywhere on the screen, it won't do anything, but it does automatically focus and change exposure. You can change your exposure manually. You can also set your flash. You can either turn it on or off. So right now it's on, but you have to toggle that off if you don't want it on. We also have settings here. So you have quite a few settings that you can change, including video size. So you can record in 1080p, 720p, VGA, 480p, QVGA, QCIF. You can also change your white balance, your color effect. You can turn audio on or off, so you can either record with or without audio. And you have auto review as well as storage options. Now, if you have changed too many things, you don't know what you did, you can reset it just by tapping that. Now, in terms of camera quality, it's actually pretty good. It's definitely better than I expected. So you can zoom in pretty close to any subject and you get quite a bit of detail. Colors look good, although they're a little undersaturated, I think, but they still look pretty good. Now, in terms of video quality, this is where things aren't as good. So, for example, if you look at the grass right now, you can see it looks pretty blocky. There is a lot of artifacting. You can see the color drops out. So, although it can record in 1080p, you really don't get the quality effect you would expect. Now, the other big story here is Verizon's 4G LTE speeds, which are pretty impressive. So here I was able to get up to 20 down and up to 9 up. So that's definitely very good results. You can see also my ping levels, or my latency, is pretty low. So 59, 76, 79, 67. So that's actually better than most ISPs. Definitely a reason to get this phone is for that 4G speed. Now let's just test out the real world performance. So I'm going to load Apple's website and see how it looks. So that is pretty quick. So you can zoom in, take a look, and it looks pretty good. Now, testing out the mobile hotspot feature, which allows you to turn your LG phone into a modem so you can connect other devices, so you can take advantage of that fast 4G speed. All you have to do is enable it, and you get instructions on how to set it up. So here they've given me instructions on how to connect to the network. So you can see I have a password here. So all I have to do is enter that password in and connect to my wireless network. Now, overall, the performance of this device is pretty quick. So that's one of the great things about having a dual-core processor, is the speed at which it can handle just about everything. So you can zoom in, pinch to zoom, move the page around pretty smoothly. And the OS itself also operates smoothly, so you can swipe through pages pretty quick without a lot of frame dropping. So performance is pretty smooth for a device in this class. Now, in terms of overall shape and form factor, it's actually pretty similar in size to the iPhone 4S. It has very similar dimensions, although it is a little thicker. Now, the LG Lucid has a 4-inch screen versus the iPhone's 3.5-inch screen, but of course the iPhone has that Retina display, so that's 326 ppi versus 233. So this display definitely looks a lot better. But I think it's nice to have a larger screen over the same footprint. It feels very comfortable to hold. You can operate the entire screen with just one thumb. So I definitely think I wish the iPhone had a screen about this size. It seems to work just about perfectly. Most devices a little bigger than this size are a little more uncomfortable to hold, and you kind of have to scooch them around in your hand in order to operate them. So I think this is just about perfect. Now, the build quality is pretty inexpensive. It is just plastic. Nothing really remarkable here except for that sort of nice translucent red pattern that's underneath the plastic, so it looks kind of nice. Feature-wise, it's definitely a fully featured phone for something that's otherwise fairly inexpensive. $69.99 definitely is cheaper than most phones. So for example, if you want to buy this on Verizon, it's either $299 or $399 depending on what size you go for. Now in conclusion, I'm definitely impressed by the LG Lucid. It is much more than I expected. So I think LG has done a good job with its skin by adding additional content, especially to gingerbread. So they've made gingerbread a lot better by what they've done. So I really like the fact that, for example, they've added a dialer widget on the home screen. I actually haven't seen that before, but it's tremendously useful. Nice weather widget and the search widget, and there's not a lot of bloatware or clutter. It's a pretty simple and friendly user interface. And I also like the lock screen interface, which allows you to launch apps. So you get a pretty user-friendly phone. The phone itself does operate very smoothly, very quickly, so you don't get any lag. You don't get any performance problems, so it's definitely a smooth operating phone. And of course, you also have 4G LTE connectivity, which makes this a screaming fast phone on any mobile network. So you get 4G LTE speeds without spending a lot of money to get it on a higher end smartphone. Now, I do have two complaints about this device, and that's battery life. Battery life definitely isn't the best, although it kind of falls in line with my iPhone 4S. That's thanks partly to 4G. So battery life is about a day or less, about 8 hours on 4G LTE, although they estimate a little higher than that, maybe 15 hours. But in practice, it is pretty low. It's not the best. Also, the camera. Although the camera does shoot excellent stills, video is pretty poor, and I think that is thanks partly to processing. So I think they have to improve the software for processing that video. There's really no reason you should see such bad artifacting on 1080p video, especially with a sensor at 5 megapixels. You don't even need 5 megapixels to process that video. So that's going to do for me, guys. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you again in the next video.